The next important topic that we're going to take up is conformity and deviance. Now, what we'll do in this is we'll first understand both these terms, conformity and deviance. Then we'll try to understand what are the prevailing theories related to deviance. Then we'll see how Merton has added to this body of knowledge. We'll also look at some of the criticism of this. So we'll start with the topic. Now, what is conformity? What is deviance? See, every society will have some social norms. Every society will have some tolerance. Tolerance limits will be there within society. Now, if someone is committing some action, or an action of an individual is not falling within tolerance limits will be there within society. Now, if someone is committing some action, or an action of an individual is not falling within the tolerance limits will be there within society. Now, if someone is committing some action, or an action of an individual is not falling within the tolerance limit of the society, then it will be referred to as a deviant act. If an action is falling within the tolerance prescribed by the society, it will be a conformist act. For example, if I am following the rules and regulations of the traffic rules and regulations are there, that means I am a conformist. I am exhibiting conformist behavior. But if I am not following the rules and regulations, I am a deviant. A thief can be a deviant. No society says that it is right to steal someone's property. So thief is a deviant. Thief is a deviant. So these kind of deviants can be negatively sanctioned. They can be punished. A thief can be caught, and if he's caught again, he can be charged under different laws. So deviant behavior is negatively sanctioned. But sometimes some deviant behavior might also be positively sanctioned. Even if you are not following the norms of the society, whatever is sanctioned in the society, sometimes it can be positively sanctioned. For example, a scientist, if he breaks away from the rules, regulations, he's working in a particular area, there are some established norms, but he is breaking those norms and he's inventing something new. So that is also deviant behavior. But this kind of deviant behavior can be positively sanctioned. So deviance means you are deviating from an accepted path. So accepted path, who designs it? It is the social norms. So social norms are deciding a path, and according to that you decide whether a behavior is conforming or whether it is deviant. So the thing here is, the social norms can vary, so the accepted path can also vary. So this idea of conformist deviance can also vary over a period of time. So this is a relative thing. We will try to understand deviance a little more. Deviance, as I told you, can be positively sanctioned, it can also be negatively sanctioned. Positively sanctioned means it is rewarded, negatively sanctioned means it is punished. So some more examples you can see here. Sometimes if a soldier is going beyond the call of his duty, he's sacrificing his own life. So that is also a deviant behavior, and he might be rewarded for this. A Paramveer Chakra can be given to him for his supreme sacrifice. It is also deviant behavior, going beyond the call of the duty. Thief, rapist, as I told you, they are examples of negative deviance, they are negatively sanctioned. Sometimes certain acts, they might not follow the prescribed norms of the society or the prescribed expectations, but they can be tolerated. Sometimes people might exhibit some sort of weird behavior, weird within quotes. For example, there can be an old lady or old man who's collecting multiple cats. There are some instances in which people have grew forests within their homes. They're staying within societies, in flats. Within that, they have created forests. So again, it can be weird, but again, it can be tolerated. Sometimes scientists, you might observe scientists who are absent-minded. There is some stereotype about some kind of scientists. They might not be wearing proper attire, proper clothes, but again, it can be tolerated. So not necessarily always deviant acts are punished. Sometimes they can be rewarded, or sometimes nothing happens. Okay? People are still fine with it. Deviance is relative. It can vary with time. It can vary with place. With time, it can vary. At some point of time, the practice of sati, a female jumping into the funeral pyre of her husband and killing herself, was accepted. But in present society, it will be considered as a deviant behavior. Similarly, homosexuality was not accepted a few years back. Now, at least the acceptance of homosexuality is increasing. It might have been considered a deviant behavior. We had a particular section in our Indian Penal Code, 377, which criminalized gay sex. But now that has been scrapped, it is no longer considered as deviant behavior. At the same time, deviance can also vary from one place to another. One place, it might be considered as a deviant activity. Now, also there will be countries in which homosexuality might be considered as a deviant activity. And at the same time, there are countries in which homosexual marriages are also allowed, gay marriages are also allowed. So what is deviance? What is conformist? Can vary. Just think about it. If a person kills someone, it can be considered as a deviant behavior. At the same time, it might be considered as a normal behavior. For example, if a soldier kills an enemy, then it is expected. He is expected to kill his enemy. It is not a deviant behavior. But if any normal person kills someone else, then it will be deviant behavior. It will be considered as a murder. So depending on the circumstances, depending on the place, depending on the time, the idea of deviance can also vary. Another example can be, see, there are certain racial groups, certain communities, the Sioux warriors. They have one annual sun dance ceremony. In this, their body is tied, and some leather straps and all these things are tied to their bodies. They have to free themselves from that. Now, when they're freeing themselves, their flesh can come out, their body can be mutilated in that process. But they are doing it on their own. They're participating in these festivals. These kind of activities in other parts of society will be considered as masochist. You're trying to hurt yourself on your own. You are gaining pleasure by hurting yourself. But amongst Sioux warriors, it is not the same sentiment. Similarly, another kind of concept, the concept of private ownership of property. Now, private ownership of property is a very common norm. It's there among average members of most of the societies. In American society, this is something aspirational. People want to acquire property. Their goal is to acquire wealth, material wealth. So one of the things that is required is private ownership of property. But same thing the Sioux warriors might look down upon. They don't think private ownership of property is something good. They might look down upon these kind of practices. So among them, private ownership of property is a deviant behavior. But among the average population, it is not a deviant behavior. Thus, deviance is something which can be relative, which can vary from place, which can vary from time. Now, we will look at some of the existing theories of deviance. Now, as you can see on the screen, there can be different theories of deviance. There are physiological theories, there are psychological theories, sociological theories. Merton has given some, has added to it. Then again, there are different criticisms of Merton's theories, and again, some more. What do interactionists, what does the Chicago school say, what does the Marxist school say? There are also subcultural theory of deviation. So what we do, we look at all these theories of deviance one by one. First, we'll see the physiological theory of deviance. Now, these physiological theories, they trace deviance into the genetic makeup of an individual. They feel there are certain characteristics in the body, some physiological characteristics, which make one more prone to deviant activities. For example, Lombroso says that those who are criminal, they have certain specific characteristics. These criminals have characteristics of the primitive form of man. For example, these primitive form of man used to have large jaw, they used to have high cheekbones, they might have an extra nipple, they might have extra toes, fingers. Now, those who are criminals, they're more prone to have these kind of characteristics, physiological characteristics. But again, not much evidence is there to support Lombroso's claim, his picture of a criminal. Sheldon and Element Group, they talk about some other concepts. They're saying that there is a relationship between your build-up, how your body is shaped, what kind of structure your body has, and delinquent activity. He says those who are having this stocky, rounded bodies, this particular kind of structure is referred to as mesomorphic. So those who are mesomorphic, they're more prone to delinquent activity. Again, not much empirical evidence is there to prove this. Hence, Eisner, he's saying that delinquent activity, deviant behavior, and extroversion, they are linked together. Certain people, they're extroverts. Now, extroverts, what kind of features they have? Again, they are ready to take chances, they might be impulsive, they show greater degrees of excitement. And he's saying these people, with these characteristics, these specific characteristics, they are more prone to criminal behavior. Now, some more theories are also there. There's this theory that people who have two Y chromosomes, again, they are more prone to deviant activity. Then there's another theory that there's a particular hormone which is more responsible for deviant activities. So, these are all physiological theories. They basically try to find out some traits, some physiological trait, some feature of the genetic makeup, and they try to link it with deviant behavior. But sociologists, they say that individual is not a prisoner of his or her own genes, and an individual is not a complete prisoner of his or her own genes. Might be these features predispose an individual towards deviant behavior, but it cannot be the reason for deviance. It cannot be the only reason for deviance. Apart from these physiological theories, there are some psychological theories related to deviance. Now, these theories, they also try to find out the reason for deviance in the individual. They feel that those who are deviant, they're different from the population, they are abnormal, and this abnormality predisposes them to deviance. But they are saying it is not because of their genetic makeup. It is because of their socialization process, the way they have interacted with the society. In this process, they would have learned something, they would have missed out on something, which is leading to them exhibiting these kind of characteristics. For example, there's a study by John Bowlby. He says that those children who did not get access to maternal love when they were child, they were not with their mothers or they were separated from their mothers. So these children are more likely to exhibit deviant behavior. The underlying assumption here is every child, every individual has some basic human requirements. Emotional needs are one of those requirements. Now, if you have not got these maternal love, then you are more prone to deviant behavior. Now, Robert G. He also talks about another psychological theory of deviance. He says that the boy's relationship with father during the early adolescent stage, that has an impact. In case the boy's relationship with the father is not harmonious, there's a lot of conflict, but then this strained relationship that they're having, it gets projected out. This hostility gets projected out, and it gets projected out on others. And again, when it is being projected out on others, this is leading to deviance. So these are some psychological theories related to deviance. But sociologists, again, they're saying that socio-cultural factors, they form the basis of psychology, and individuals' interaction with society will also depend on socio-cultural factors. So we should give more importance to socio-cultural factors. And again, what is mental health? All these things, there is a lot of dispute among the psychologists. So again, the methodology they're using might be suspect. Apart from that, an individual is not prisoner of his early experience. Here, what is happening? When Bowlby is saying that you did not have maternal love when you were a child, then Andrew is saying that the child did not have a very good relationship, had a strained relationship with his dad during that adolescent age. But we should remember that an individual is not just a prisoner of his early experience. So this way, sociologists are also refuting some of these psychological theories. They don't agree with these psychological theories. Now, there are also some sociological theories of deviance. For example, Durkheim talks about crime. Durkheim says that crime is inevitable in any society. It is actually a normal aspect of human life. And Durkheim in fact says that some types of crime or some amount of crimes can be healthy. It can be functional for a society. Why does he say so? How can crime be healthy? See, crime is also an act of deviance. Now, what Durkheim says is there are some collective sentiments in society, there are some shared values in society, but not everyone will equally adhere to these shared values. Some people might protest it. Now, and this protest is deviance. Now, if you are deviating from the shared value of the society, it can, yes, in extreme forms, it can lead to high rates of crime. But also, deviance means you are talking about change, you're talking about social change. Then if there is social change, then the society can also progress. For progress of society, you require innovation, and innovation is also a type of deviance. So, indirectly, what Durkheim is trying to say is some amount of deviance can be healthy for the society. But yes, if high rates of crime are there, then it can be dysfunctional. It can break the society. But this collective sentiments, it should not be too strong, it should not be too hostile. There should be some freedom so that there can be some change as well, some deviance as well. And he's saying that the function of punishment, it should not be to remove crime, but the main aim of punishment should be to maintain the collective sentiments of the society. It should be there to heal the wounds that was there because of the criminal act. So Durkheim is saying that crime and punishment both are required for the society. When crime is there against the society, one other thing also happens, that the conscience collective, it also becomes stronger. It can become stronger. People, if there's a crime, people are also coming together to fight against the crime. And the punishment also strengthens this. So sometimes crime can also strengthen the bonds that exist between the members of the society. One example, that one of those most infamous crime, the 2012 Nirbhaya gang rape incident, after that, how the entire society came together to protest against the unsafe public spaces. And again, there were changes in rules, regulations, laws. So a particular criminal incident is leading to change. It is also bringing people together. So sometimes crime can also be healthy. Sometimes crime might have some functional effect for the society. But the challenge here is Durkheim does not explain which particular groups within society will be more prone to deviance. And again, why certain type of deviance is associated with certain particular groups. For example, members of certain sections of society might be more prone to certain criminal activities. Why is it? So those things have not been explained by Durkheim. So this is the limitation of his theory. And another sociological theory is given by Albert Cohen. He's saying that sometimes deviance acts like a safety valve. So harmful expression of some sort of discontentment. So it is a kind of a warning device. One example you can give is sometimes someone has parked a car in a particular area, in slum area, adjacent to a slum area. Some people can come and they can just scratch the car. So they're not getting anything out of it. The people are over there. But somewhere they would be discontented and they're just expressing it. Kind of safety valve. So this is an example how deviance can be a safety valve. These things do happen. These are some sociological theories. Now we will look at Merton's theory of deviance. Now Merton had published Paradigm of Anomy, 1936. Now it is not on the basis of any research and he's also not using his middle age theories. So again, logically he's trying to deduct something, come to a conclusion, deduce something. So what he's saying is, for smooth running of any society, there is a requirement for value consensus. So within the members of society, there has to be some consensus when it comes to the values. Different members in the society, they are placed at different positions. So not everyone has the same opportunity to realize these values. Sometimes there can be lack of coordination between culturally approved goals and culturally permitted needs. And this thing can exert pressure on an individual for deviance. An individual's response to this particular situation, to this particular pressure, will be dependent on his class position. What do we mean by this? See, in every society, there are certain goals. These goals are aspirational. Everyone should be achieving these goals. That is what people feel. For example, material wealth can be one goal. In American society, when we talk about the American society, there is this great American dream. Everyone wants to have certain material positions. You want to have the best car, you want to stay in the best locality. Same thing might be in India also. In your case, let's say you're talking about Delhi or Bombay, you want to stay in South Bombay, you want to stay in South Delhi. These are the posh areas. So you also want to have a certain standard of life. So these are the goals which have been created by the society, by the culture. But at the same time, there are certain means by which you can achieve all these goals. There are certain institutional means. For example, education can be a means, talent can be a means, hard work can be a means. So there are certain means and there are certain goals. You have to achieve these goals through these means. But in society, people are at different strata. They're not all at the equal levels. Some people will have access to the means, some people will not have. But society is exerting pressure on them. Society is exerting pressure. These goals are exerting pressure. But you need to achieve these things. And you do not have those means. So there is a conflict here. There is lack of coordination. This can lead to an anomy situation. You remember we had used this term before when we discussed Durkheim. Durkheim also talks about anomy. But what is anomy for him? It is a situation where there is normative vacuum or there is conflicting norms. So remember when we discussed about suicide, we had discussed about anomy. Same thing again, Martin is talking about. He's adding something to it. He's saying goals are putting pressure on the individual and that individual does not know how to respond now. He does not have the means. And it can lead to different kind of responses. We'll look at these responses in a while. So anomy situation is there and there will be responses as per your position in the society. For example, I've already quoted this example when we were discussing the great American dream. It wants its member to be successful. And what is the measurement of success here? Possibly owning a Cadillac or staying in Beverly Hills, one of the posh areas in the US. So material wealth, position of these material wealth is considered to be the measure, degree of success. And there are some institutionalized means by which you can achieve this thing. Maybe by education, maybe by talent, maybe by hard work, determination, ambition. So these are the culturally accepted goals. These are the culturally accepted means. So both the things are important. You should have the means to achieve these goals. In case this does not happen, what are the possible reactions? We'll see that. Goals are there and means are there. Now, in case people have access to these means and people also feel that these goals they need to achieve. So that leads to a conformist behavior. You subscribe to the goals and you have the means to achieve it. That leads to conformist behavior. But there can be a situation in which people subscribe to these goals. They want to be successful in life. They want to have all these wealth and material positions. But they do not have means to achieve all these things. So they are the ones who are rejecting these normative means. They do not have access to these means. They cannot achieve those goals by the means which has been prescribed by the society. They are retaining the success aspirations. So in that case, people can resort to innovation. For example, a government servant, he takes bribes. He wants to become rich quickly. Material position, becoming wealthy, is one of the success parameters in that society. But he has a fixed salary. He cannot become rich. But he accepts bribes. That way again he might favor for some contacts. So this person is becoming rich. So he's the success aspiration that is there is with him. But he does not have the means. So he's deviating away from the means. None of the society will say that taking bribes is accepted. It will not be taken in the right direction, right method. So he's rejecting the means, but he's sticking to the goals. So that is innovation here. Now this kind of behavior will be exhibited among the poorer sections of the society. Similarly, you can think of the Bollywood underworld. Again, they want to acquire something. They want to achieve success. So they have those goals in their mind. But the method they have used is not correct. The means is not correct. So again, they are also innovative in that respect. Now another kind of response is ritualism. Now there will be some members of the society who have that desire for social respectability. So they will use all the norms which is prescribed by the society. So they will adhere to all these needs. But they do not, or they know that they will never be able to achieve those goals. With these means, it is impossible for them to achieve it. People who are in the lower socio-economic sections of the society, lower middle class specifically. So what will happen in these cases? They will make a fetish of these means. They will follow these means day in and day out, and they know they are not going to achieve it. So they will abandon the commonly accepted success goals. That is not there. They lose sight of those, and they just continue with the means. An example can be a lower grade bureaucrat. He's strictly follows. He follows all the rules and regulations. And again, things like typism. Since he's following all rules and regulations, files will not pass from one place to another. For him, what is important is his respectability. People respect him because he follows all these rules and regulations. He's considered to be honest. So this is again another example of ritualism. Another kind of behavior or another kind of response can be ritualism. These people, they understand what are the socially accepted goals. They know what are the institutional means to achieve that. But they know that they cannot achieve either of them. So they will abandon both the goals as well as the means. And they will not even try. They are unable to cope up with the social life. Generally, the people who commit suicide, people who are psychopaths, people who are outcasts, they are the ones. Sometimes artists can also fall into this category. So they are retreating. They're not able to cope up with the social life. Another kind of response can be rebellion. Now, these kind of people, they know these are the norms, these are the accepted goals, these are the accepted means. But they want to create a new society. They reject these goals, they will reject these means, and they will replace it with different goals and means. They will have an alternate approach altogether. They want to create a new society. Example, Gandhi, Christ, Lenin. So they are rejecting the conventional norms. For them, the idea of success is different. For them, the idea of means is different. For example, Gandhi means he's using different means. Satyagraha, non-violence, civil disobedience. They were not the means at that point of time, and he has his own goal that we need to achieve independence. Sometimes a terrorist can also be a rebellion. See, a terrorist for us might be a freedom fighter for someone else. So look at it from that point of view. He might be willing to create a new society, new state, and his means are also not correct. He's using violence. Violence is not an appropriate mean. So rebellion, they exhibit this kind of behavior. They want to create a new society. Generally, this kind of behavior is exhibited by the members of the rising class. Thus, there are different kind of responses, and they are all dependent on where you are in the class hierarchy. Generally, conversion behavior from the upper classes. They have all these institutionalized mechanisms. They can have access to education, and they can achieve these goals. Innovation generally from the lower classes. Ritualism again among the lower middle classes. Ritualism, some sections of society who are not able to cope up by the ones times. Rebellion among the emergent classes, the rising classes. So these are the possible responses. Now, what are some of the criticism of Merton's theory? Now, first criticism by Albert Cohen. Now, Albert Cohen is saying that there are some people who are at the rock bottom of the society. Some people. Now, they know that the goals, societal goals are too far. They will not be able to achieve it. And at the same time, there is a lot of frustration among themselves. It has built up. They want to release that frustration. They want to have a safety valve for this frustration. So sometimes this criminal behavior or deviant behavior becomes a safety valve for them. And see, here they are not rejecting the goals of the society. They are not rejecting the means of the society. Just that temporarily they want to give a vent to these frustration that has built up over a period of time. So this thing you might have observed. Sometimes these people from the poor background, they might just for the sake of pleasure, they might beat up someone. Or sometimes they might, an example that I had given a few minutes back, if someone has parked their car near a slum, poor people are there in the slum, they might just scratch that car, they will try to damage that car, they will try to steal that tire of the car. In fact, they're not doing it for any monetary advantage, they might not get anything out of it, but just for their own satisfaction. That frustration that has been built up is being taken care of. Another theory, Walter Miller talks about, he says that it's not always about frustration. There is also the existence of subculture theory of deviance. See, an individual, you might think they're deviant, but they're not deviant, they're just normal members of the society. The society is in itself is deviant. The society, that particular community, that particular group might be deviant. The society that which this particular person belongs to. For example, there are certain tribal groups in India for whom stealing is a way of life. From their birth, they're taught how to steal. For them, it is just any other profession. So stealing is not considered wrong among their societies. They're just average members within that tribe. That tribe is deviant. So this is an example of the subculture theory of deviance. They are delivered criminal from outside, but they're just normal individuals. Now, Hollins again talks about some other dimensions, some extra dimensions here. Now, he says that in certain societies, there can be illegitimate opportunity, illegitimate authority structures. Now, in a society, there are certain means for achieving those success. For example, education is one of those means, education, occupation. But in certain societies, an illegitimate opportunity structure might also develop. If there is an illegitimate opportunity structure, crime becomes a way of life. There can be conflicts. For example, in case of Mumbai, there is one illegitimate opportunity structure that is the underworld. Many people get their jobs, many people move into that. If they're not able to achieve success in life through legitimate means, they can move into this illegitimate opportunity structure. So if there is an illegitimate opportunity structure, there will be crime. In case illegitimate opportunity structure is not there, it can lead to a conflict culture which can lead to vandalism. So what Albert Cohen was talking about, that vandalism, sometimes these poor people, they want to vent out their frustration, they want to have a safety valve which releases this frustration. That those kind of activities, these vandalism kind of activities, they are there when there is no illegitimate authority structure. So there is no conflict culture that develops, it leads to vandalism. But if you have an illegitimate structure, it can lead to criminal activities. And those who are not having access, those who are failing in both, they can take up ritualism. So this is what Hollins talked about. Now, Marzah and David, they are studying criminals in reformatories in US. They feel that the other theories that we have been discussing till now, they're trying to differentiate. They're saying that those who are deviants, they are fundamentally different from others. But what Marzah and David are saying is, these people, the deviants, and those who are not deviants, among them the difference is minimal. In fact, those who are in these reformatories, those who are the criminals, they themselves disapprove of crime. They themselves will appeal to a higher royalty to legitimize their criminal act. For example, a person might be implicated for a criminal act, but they will say that they have been discriminated, they have been wrongly treated by the society, that is the reason they committed this particular incident. So they are trying to justify their act. And they know what is crime here. So they resort to neutralization, this technique of neutralization. They experience what is sometimes referred to as mood of fatalism. They can move from one mood to another. That is how they try to neutralize this thing. So what Marzah and David are trying to say is, those who are deviant, they're not different people. They know what is crime, and they can switch from one position to another. So this is the theory of Marzah and David. Now there are again some more theories. There is this interactionist approach. Herbert Becker, he talks about this interactionist approach. He says that the theories that we have been talking about till now, they cannot explain career deviance. There are some people who take deviance as their career. For example, Charles Sobrach, throughout his life, he used to commit different kinds of criminal activities, murder and other kind of activities in different parts, and he always used to escape. So what is the reason? How can you explain career deviance? Now, whatever theories we are talking, it cannot explain career deviance. Now, he says that when some people go to certain institutions, for example, jail, they get labeled as deviant person or as a criminal. Now, because of this label, they get a push. Now, it becomes very difficult for them to join other parts of the society. Because of this label that you are a criminal, you have committed this criminal act, they only can join ranks with people of similar background. And this pushes them into career deviance. This labeling that you are a criminal can further lead to deviance and it can cause career deviance. Now, another theory given by Irving Goffman, he talks about the role of certain institutions, the total institutions. Institutions like jails, institutions like mental hospitals. These institutions, they lead to the decay of an identity of an individual. See, when one individual enters into these institutions, they have to give up their normal life. They cannot wear their regular clothes. They have to behave in a particular manner. The kind of food they are serving, for that also they have to follow different rules, regulations, they have to stand like to food. Everything is regulated. They have to behave in a particular manner. All these things leads to modification of self. Their self dies in this process. Now they get convinced of the identity, of their own identity, that their identity is linked to this institution. And now, because of all these things, they have a very stigmatized identity. They have a very stigmatized experience. And again, this can lead to deviant behavior. Another approach is the Chicago School approach. Now, what they're trying to do is here is they are studying the ecology of crime. Now, for understanding crime, so what is the index of crime? How do you measure crime? So they're taking arrests as the index to measure crime. More the number of arrests means more the number of crimes. And they're finding out that within cities, the inner part of the city will have higher number of crimes, 5 times as high as the suburbs. And they feel the reason for this is in the inner part of the city, what happens? People keep on coming, they keep on going. You'll find more number of migrants in the inner part of the cities. Those who are settled in the suburbs. So the bonds in the inner part of the city is not that strong. Bonds outside is strong because people have settled down over there. They own the property over there. They have been staying there for generations. Now, so because the social bonds are weaker, more chances of deviant activities. So here, the root of deviance is again something else. So Merton's theory cannot explain this. Marxist approach of deviance. Now here, they're trying to find out deviance in the economic structure. They're saying in the last few decades, there has been globalization, there has been liberalization. The entire world is getting connected. More greater movement of people from one country to another. At the same time, finances are moving from one side to another. There is also greater movement of capital. At the same time, liberalization is happening. The role of the state is declining. The role of the state in the welfare activities that is also declining. Welfare spending has also declined. MNCs, they have grown disproportionately. They have become very strong. They're just concerned with property. They do not have a very good sense of social responsibility. And we have also experienced rising inequality. We have also seen that people who are at the bottom, they're becoming more impoverished. There have been instances where we have had jobless growth. Materialistic and consumerist way of life is being promoted. So all these things can also lead to increase in deviant activities. So these are some more theories of deviance apart from the ones that Merton talks about. And again, Merton's theory has also been criticized, and some more value addition to Merton's theory has also been there. So this is about deviance. Different theories related to deviance, what has been Merton's contribution to deviance. And again, one thing, when you're studying this topic, try to relate it with anomy that has been discussed when we're discussing about Emily Durkheim. So relate anomy of Durkheim and anomy of Merton. Some of the questions related to anomy and deviance, you can see on the screen. Please try to answer these questions. This will show where you stand.